Yes. Okay, we're recording, you guys. Madam Chair is.
So the Village Bell Virtual Resiliency and Sustainability Task Force Board of August 26, 2020 is officially called to order at 3:33 p.m. The next thing on the agenda is the silent meditation and the pledge. So we'll take a moment of silent meditation. Okay, and we can go ahead. Oh, thank you. Perfect. And we can go ahead and proceed to the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great. All right, to you for the roll call.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Roll call. Chair Elizabeth Carpenter.
Present.
Vice Chair Maribel Fruitstone. I believe she'll be joining us shortly. Member Courtney Kirk.
Present.
Thank you. Member Kristen McLean.
Present.
Thank you. And Member Lynn Purcell is not here. I'll see if I can get in touch with her while you guys are having the meeting. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. You do have a quorum, and at this moment in time, I will move to the approval of the agenda. At this time, task members, we're going to move to approve the agenda. If there's anything on the agenda right now at this particular time that you guys would want to add or delete from the agenda, now is the time to say so. If not, I would like to have a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll move to approve the agenda as is.
Thank you very much. Moved by Member Kirk. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you very much. Second by Chair Carpenter. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. All opposed, say no. Or nay. Hearing no nays. Moving right on, you guys. Approval of the minutes. If you guys had a chance, and for the record, Vice Chair Fruitstone has joined us. If you guys had a chance to look at those minutes, those notes from Member Kirk, he keeps excellent notes, by the way, excellent minutes, very detailed. We do appreciate that. If anybody had a chance to read those, I would look for a motion to approve the minutes from the previous meeting.
I motion to approve.
Thank you very much. Motion by Member McLean. Do I have a second to approve the minutes?
I will second.
Thank you very much. Seconded by Chair Carpenter. All in favor for approval of the minutes, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Thank you very much. Hearing no nays, the minutes are approved from the previous meeting. Right now, Chair Carpenter, if I may, I know we have a few individuals that are here that wanted to say a couple of things to the task force, but they do have other meetings that they have to get to. So I wanted to try to put them here into the acknowledgement of visitors and or special presentations. They will be short presentations when I talk to the task force, if that is okay with you, Madam Chair.
Absolutely, that sounds great.
Thank you very much. I don't know, is Mr. Ruano?
I don't see him.
He's not here yet. Okay, we'll see if he can come on. We'll start with
his hand up. He's in as one of the attendees.
Is he an attendee?
With his hand up.
Yes, I do see him. Kyle, we could bring Robert. Thank you very much. Look, I love you, Kyle. You guys move so fast. We'll bring Mr. Ruano on. You guys, this is Mr. Ruano. I'll have the village manager introduce him because he does work under the administration, and she'll tell you exactly what he does, and then he'll come on and introduce himself, and he'll expand a little bit further. Madam Manager, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, task force members and task force chair Carpenter. Thank you for having us and allowing us an opportunity to collaborate and talk to you about what we're doing with the village. I know that the Vice Mayor invited our project consultant, Robert Ruano, to also attend today's meeting based on the email that I sent about the funding opportunity that came for our hazard mitigation assistant grants that are coming out, well, that are out now, and there's a deadline of November 12th coming up. And so I know that I've met with Ms. McLean and 2 other members of the community on a project that I know she wants to talk more about with you, but this is perhaps an opportunity for the village and the task force to work together on a project and to get some funding. So I forwarded that information. Mr. Ruano is aware of it. He is a consultant for the village and does most of our grants. In fact, all of them. In fact, he works on the tree grants and the some of our water grants. So this is perhaps an opportunity, but I sent it to you all so that you could take a look at it and see if it's something that you wanted to pursue, if it lines up with the project that Ms. McLean and Mr. Gladwin and Mr. Old were working on. So Robert is here. He's well versed. He can tell you more about himself and his capabilities than I can, so I'll let him do that now. Robert?
Me okay?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, we can hear.
I assume my camera is turned off because I'm a guest, right? That's on purpose. My camera's just, it's not that it's not working, right?
Well, no, not necessarily. If once you came on, you could have like had the video. You hit that you wanted to add video.
Oh, okay.
Audio.
There you go. Hey,
There
guys.
you go. Hey, Robert.
Hey. Hi, everybody. Okay, so yes, this program, it's called BERC now. It's originally the pre-disaster mitigation program that's been around for, I don't know, probably 20 years now. It's through the Stafford Act. It's basically, there's a couple of things to consider. It has to deal with a declaration. So there has to be a disaster declaration. Secondly, there is 25, so 25% match from the applicant. So if we are going to apply for something, you'd have to have a 25% match. And third, it is basically for 2 things, wind or water, okay? It's that simple. It's either going to mitigate against the effects of wind in a storm by hardening a building like we did. We just actually submitted a similar grant for the police department with the chief for hardening that building. So it can harden a building, either a new roof, new windows, floodproofing, things of that nature, generator, which is another thing that we applied for. Mm-hmm. Or it can deal with water, mitigate water. And water is typically water infrastructure, stormwater projects. Okay, stormwater projects where there's been flooding, and that you've actually gone in and the village into the county's local mitigation strategy list and put a project in the list. Okay, so we do have time. We have, I think, until October to update, go back. I can work with the manager on the list and look at what we might want to update that list and put it on there, and then that will help guide us on what we could potentially apply for if we had the match, if we thought it was a good fit. Okay. Let me see what else with that.
Have you seen any other types of flood related or water related grants out there that could suit us or help our?
No, this is actually probably one of the best that people use for water, for flooding. Mm-hmm. They use this, and they use a hazard mitigation, what's called a hazard mitigation grant program, which is also out there. But no, this would be particularly for flooding. This is the funding that everybody points to. And again, it's under FEMA, so there has to be an emergency declaration. It has to be on the LMS list. And the county has to obviously put it on the list. They have to give you a letter and stuff, which isn't a problem. The biggest problem actually for a village of this size is a 25% match.
Right.
If you're looking at a say a water infrastructure project, it might be, you know, I don't know, it could be $1 million. You know, do you have $250,000 laying around that you want to do that for, you know? So that's an issue. That being said, there is one, as I say this, there is one opportunity, and Christia, we just had this conversation. We need to talk to the county about this. There is one, there's one federal funding that you can match for this, and that's Cdbg funding. And we are actually, we applied for it, and we received a grant. What is it, 128,000?
Yes.
I believe? Yeah.
Well, 157,000.
Sorry, right, 157 something, 158,000, right, I'm sorry. 158,000 for design of a stormwater facility in the west part of the village. That's a possibility. That amount, we may be able to use it as a match. I'd have to check with these people, but we could potentially use the Cdbg funding as a match for that 25%. Because Cdbg is the only federal funding that you can use as a match. HUD.
And just for context, is this part of what we've been talking, is this different or the same as the catchment area that we've been talking about on the west side of the school?
No, it's the same one. Exactly.
So the septic to sewer where we're trying to get the easement, right? Okay.
Exactly.
We have the easement.
Right, but I mean, it's that.
But yeah, but it's there.
That whole ball of wax over there on the west side of the school, right?
Right.
Okay.
But if we could use those for match funds, then that might make our money go farther, for sure.
Yeah.
It might. I can certainly look into that. I mean, it's something we actually have to talk to the person at the county.
Okay.
From HUD. So, you know, we can explore that.
Okay.
Can I ask a question, please? So the question is, can this be used for non-permanent items, or does it have to be permanent infrastructure?
Permanent infrastructure, yes.
Thank you.
Are you thinking like portable generators? Is that what you're thinking?
Sandbags.
Oh.
We've been talking about
no.
short-term
Yeah.
mitigation in the case of flooding.
Right. This would be a long-term project. The sandbags could be reimbursed through the Stafford Act, through the FEMA stuff if there is a storm. So as the manager knows, if there was a storm and you had to get sandbags and whatever through the Stafford Act, you would ask for reimbursement, but not through this grant.
Okay, thank you.
Right. FEMA reimbursements for that. Okay, well, thank you, Robert. I know you all have a full agenda. I just wanted to also give everyone just kind of an update about where we are. I don't think you understand the resiliency that we are doing, you know, what we are doing in the village, or maybe we haven't, you know, adequately put the message out about some of the things that we are doing. I don't, you know, I wouldn't want anyone to recreate the wheel or reinvent things, or, you know, maybe we can amplify what we're presently doing and committed to with what, you know, this task force will do. And I do want you to know we're part of the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System. We do we're regularly reporting on that, and we also, you know, do the cleaning and the counting of the bags and all of those things that are needed for that. We have a consultant named Mike Gambino who manages that through our engineering service with Craig A. Smith. So that's being done. And like Mr. Ruano said, we're part of the local mitigation strategies. We have some items in our list, but we are up for an update. So it'd be nice to maybe put something from what comes from this task force on our list too, to see if we can, you know, add that to our local mitigation strategies list of priorities. We are.
I'm sorry, Madam Manager. I'm sorry, I know we've got a very busy meeting. Is there some way we could get this in writing so we could review it and not take up our time?
Not just yet. I don't.
I was going to suggest, Courtney, as an action point, and I don't know, Omar, as a matter, or Madam Chair, as a matter of, you know, procedure where we officially document this, but after, it seems to me like that there's a good action point off this initial meeting, which is that if we decide that we're going to formally pass, you know, the recommendations that we've been working over, that the follow-up step to that is that the village manager and a representative or more than one representative from the committee or come together to try to bring those two pieces together so that the committee knows what the village is doing, and so that the village, yeah, and the council, once they decide how to take action, or if they're going to take action on what we're going to recommend, how that all gets folded together, because ideally, to Christia's point, we want them all in the same
Or
document.
the next meeting's agenda with the managers, to have an agenda item for the manager to provide that information. And then she can provide it to us ahead of time and answer questions and present it in a succinct manner. I'm just looking, and I don't know. I don't think we're going to get through our stuff in 2 hours.
Well, I was invited today to give that to you. So, you know, it's your task force. If you prefer not to, you know, do it, that's fine. It's up to you as a task force.
Yeah, I just
happy
want
to provide a written, you know, it's just that, you know, I don't have anything formally written for you as a task force about these things. I'm just kind of going through my other reports and things I know we're doing.
I think part of the mission that we were tasked with is to where we stand currently. I do think having eventually, it's really as soon as possible, having some document of everything you just mentioned, like our MPD, gas compliance, and what other project, the few that in addition to the ones you haven't mentioned yet, would be really valuable.
Yes.
Yeah, I think this is a process thing, right? Like we're only in our second meeting, and the only reason that we generated a document and generated it and referenced the fact that we expect it's going to kind of be integrated with what the village is already doing is just the fact that we felt a sense of urgency because we're in storm season. But I expect that the process of building a kind of well-documented effort is part of what we're here to help you do, Christia. So like, this is not the end point, this is the beginning point.
Yeah.
So the only reason that we're passing you a document, or that we expect to pass you a document, is only because we're in the middle of storm season right now, and we wanted to just make sure that certain things were in place. But that's just completely a preliminary action.
Chair, if I may.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Yeah, so I invited, just like last time we had a meeting, you guys met Juan from Serbia. I reached out to invite Mr. Rano on here so you guys can meet him. And as you saw, that he gave you guys some information about grants and things like that, especially what the village manager introduced to us today that's on the agenda. I did ask the village manager here for a couple of reasons. The first reason, you guys, is because when we had our first meeting, you guys were saying like we need to do an audit of the village. Nobody knows exactly what's going on in the village as far as resiliency and sustainability as much as the village manager. So I had her come on here, and she did say, she said, I have this, I said, well, can you come on and just kind of say some of the things that the village is working on, because we may not know as a task force. So I didn't want that we start to talk about things or work on things or say we need to do this or that, and it's already being done or it can't be done. So I said, why don't you come on and say something like that? She said, well, I'm putting together, she already told us, she started telling me she's writing it out. About an hour ago, we were on the phone and she said, I'm trying to finish formalizing this. I said, you're not going to finish it in time. Don't worry about it. Come on, talk about what you're doing, so at least we know, so we don't start to talk about things that you're already doing or things that we can't do. I said, and then just tell the task force that you'll email it to me after you finish putting it all together. You'll email it to me and I'll email it out to the task force. So that's what we discussed earlier. So that's the only reason why she was here, you guys.
Right. But I can certainly provide you the document in time for your next meeting.
I appreciate them coming on, you guys, because they do have other, things that they have to go do. But also, when individuals like this come on and they give us information, it really, really does help later on. We're on these agenda items and we might have questions. Because see, just like what Mr. Arano just did, when we got to that agenda item, he just answered a lot of questions that we might have had. He gave us great information. So that's the only reason why I had them come on, because they cannot stay the entire meeting. So I had them come on early. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. And I think that's, and actually just to quickly get back to the discussion that Mr. Urano was providing for us, I had a quick question that does relate to a later agenda item of ours, mentioned that this was kind of the only grant of this type that would work for the village. I also, last week I came across a grant program from FDEP, Resiliency and Mitigation, and it's a smaller program. It's $0 to, I think, $10,000 to $60,000. But I was just wondering if that was something you had seen or something you thought was viable as a option.
What's it
for
called?
us.
I'm sorry, what's it called?
It is Coastal Partnership Initiative Grant, and it's FDEP.
Coastal.
I can send. I attended a. Yeah, I can. Well, let's see here.
You were on when I sent the full agenda package, Robert. I can resend it to you right now if you want.
No, but I'll take a look at the grant.
Yeah, and it has
It's in
4
there.
categories. Again, one of them that is particularly applicable to, you know, the discussion we just had is resilient communities that deals with flooding and things like that. So I just was hoping to get your thoughts on that as a viable option.
Okay, I will take a look at that. We've applied. We actually applied. You know, we know FDEP. We've applied for Section 319 grant through FDEP before, and all this stuff. We've got the water, all the water loan and grant is through FDEP. But I will take a look at this and see if it is a fit. It says the application closes. Oh no, it closed on September 25th.
We'll close on September 25th.
Oh, September. I'm sorry. Today's August. It's August. Sorry.
Hasn't closed yet. Last week they had a webinar on what the program is, and I probably attended 50% of it, and it seemed really applicable to us as a village.
Okay.
So if that's something that, you know, I'm not sure how our grant program works. You know, our agreement with you and the company, but the village is interesting in having me look into. I think it'd be.
Okay, I'll take a look at this one particularly. I hadn't seen this one this time around because we didn't have anything, you know, that we were looking at for it. So demonstrated. I'm looking at for more information. Okay, I'll take a look. I haven't looked at exactly the application to see if we're ready. Note that this one is also 1-for-1 match. So whatever. If we apply for 10, we got to match it with 10. But the good thing about this one is that you can apply with in-kind, with staff salaries and stuff like that. And you can match it. So that's a lot easier to match.
I think it has a componentability of a component of analysis too, like just vulnerability analysis. They provide some funding for, which I think might be valuable for the situation that we're in.
Okay. No, thank you. And always, I'll tell all of you. I mean, you know, I've been doing this for a long time. You know, 10 years on my own in this business, but I've been doing grants for about 20 years. But sometimes these things, you don't receive them right away, or they don't come out, or the listserv. So if you see something, feel free to send it through your route. I would guess, you know, through chair or whatever, and then, you know, send it to us because, you know, I may not have seen it for some reason. Just assume that we have it. Okay.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
I see that Mr. Kirk, Member Kirk has his hand up. I'm not sure if that's from before or if he still has his hand.
Brittany?
That hand was up because I was trying to ask questions and couldn't get in. So I'm good.
Oh, okay. Village Manager, was there additional piece of information? Did we cut you off in that, or was that the high level something that we could revisit?
No, there are other things too. We're working on updating our water plan and our comprehensive plan. We are actually having a town hall, the 3rd town hall meeting for this on September 2nd. I think that's a Wednesday at 6:30. It's on Zoom. So that's another opportunity for Resiliency to, you know, to really influence that. We're, oh gosh, I'm just trying to go quickly since I know that is the key. We're doing circular transportation or transit pilot program that will be starting December or January of you know, the coming December. That will be helpful to just transporting residents for free to and from downtown area during peak travel times. We are working on our parks. We're redesigning and renovating based on some developers fees that we received. That's going to be helpful. We're also very engaged with the Tree City USA. We are Tree City USA, and so that impacts our, flooding and irrigation as well, or water in the village, but also just making our community just more livable and walkable. So with that, we have applied for funds and received a grant a matching grant for $10,000 to plant some trees on the northwest 2nd Avenue area by the Horseman School to make a walkable trail. I think that impacts, the village in a great way as well, bringing trees and shade and walkability to that area. And we have a number of things. I will, as Mr. Ruano said, we also applied for a hardening grant, which we received, we're hoping to receive, and I hope that goes well. The flooding and drainage issue, we're maintaining our drainage. We just passed a resolution adopting some funds to be utilized for a regular routine maintenance of that. And so that actually has already started with our storm drains, and then also working with the county to ensure that they continue to clean their drains on Northeast 2nd Avenue, North Miami Avenue, and Northwest 2nd. And then that will bring us to the C7 Canal Matter. I've been working with South Florida Water Management District. As you know, it's not an El Portel property, but it is, influenced, or it greatly impacts our residents. And I know that Ms. McLean will talk more about what she's working on, but we are engaged in that and working on these things. So I will provide you a formal written document. Right now it's about 20 pages. So I'm gonna make you something a little more readable, and I'll provide that to you for your next meeting. And I look forward to seeing what comes of this as you make your recommendations to our village council.
Great, thank you so much. I think that was very helpful, and a document outlining that will be, incredibly helpful moving forward as well. So thank you. And thank you, Mr. Ruan, for attending and giving us that information.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Look forward to working with all of you.
Thank you. Us as well. Does anyone have any last comments or questions for anybody?
I wanted to say thank you to the two presentations. I think it's important that once these things are documented, that it's not for nothing. I feel trying to look and get a sense of what the other municipalities are offering on their websites. Some of these projects are actually outlined in their web so that the community members would know this is what's being worked on. So it would be great to have it as a document so that then it can be uploaded onto our website for the public's information.
Good idea.
And the other thing I just want to reiterate for the record, especially for you, Christia, is the fact that, since we're such a small village and we know that we're always working at the edge of our capabilities and always punching up in terms of what we accomplish as a small village, that, part of the goal, I think, for us in principle is to help and not to duplicate. So, I don't ever want you to feel like we're, that we're trying to somehow, I don't know, judge in any way what's already going on. Like, it really is, I think, a primary goal to really try to amplify and to supplement and to support the efforts of the village as we move forward. So just, I think it's important to everybody on the committee that that be the place that we're coming from. At least for me it is anyway.
I'd second that sentiment.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I've always felt that way with our work, Kristen. So I appreciate that. And I hope that the task force will move forward in that way as well. Okay. All right. So if you all don't need me anymore, I'm going to run off to something, but I look forward to seeing what comes of this, and I'll be passing along the document to you very soon.
Me
Thanks.
too. Bye, everybody.
Thank you so much. Thank you both.
I'm not sure, Madam Chair. I'm not sure if the chief is able to stay for the majority of this meeting, or if he has something he has to do. So he wants to say something real quick and get out of here. I'm not sure, Chief, what your schedule is.
Yeah, I'll stay a little bit. I'm not going to be able to stay the whole duration. My comments, obviously, right off the top, are reserved. Last week was a perfect example. The communication between myself and Mr. Gladwin, and going back and forth with now what it turned out to be a monster. of a storm that's going to impact Texas now. But we were on top of it, trying to give out some good information. And we'll continue on that. And I put it out to my officers. I know I put it out to you as well, sir. And just to give the information to disseminate where we are, where we were going with the most up-to-date info. I have contacts too, a meteorologist that gave me some, good info. And so I stay on top of that. And Hugh's been great with that. So I'll continue on that. I know you're all the committee there. So if I have something to input, I will. But anything I can do to help facilitate in my scope of duties, by all means, at any given time, just give me it doesn't have to wait till a meeting. We'll get it done. I do respond quickly, and my officers respond quickly if there's something that needs to get done. So we'll continue along that. But I'll sit back and listen for some time. When I have to go, I'll bid adieu and I'll go. Thank you, though.
Thank you, Chief Magnuson, and thank you for your work on that last storm. Luckily, we got lucky this time, so fingers crossed.
Can I just say one really quick thing to the chief, just as part of the record? I just want to let you know that I have noticed that our communication from the police to the village has really improved under your leadership. I was on Nextdoor just this past week and was like, oh yeah, that's awesome. So I just want to let you know that and recognize that, because I know that we tend to hear about it when things go wrong, but oftentimes we don't quite take the time to recognize it when things are going right. And I just feel really confident in your ability to be on it. So, and your officers too. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And, praise goes to the officers and them really getting out there and really caring. So it makes my job a lot easier, but I do appreciate it. And that I'll segue over also to the kindness Mr. Kirk showed when he was out of town, and his thanks back to us for what the officers did. So I know it has nothing to do with the committee right now, but a thank you always goes a long way. So thank you, sir, as well.
More than welcome. Your guys do a great job.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Hey, Madam Chair, so at this point in time, it's totally yours. You would move to good and welfare and see if anybody from the audience has anything they want to say. And from that point on, you can go ahead and do your agenda.
Okay, so I don't see any hands up, but do we have any village residents that would like to make any comments at this time? Oh, Mr. Hugh Gladwin, go ahead. Let's see if I think Vice Mayor, you have the controls on unmuting people?
We'll bring him in.
Yes, Mr. Gladwin would like to speak.
You, okay, I don't have video, but that's not necessary. Yeah, I just wanted to say it's great what you guys are doing. I just wanted to mention in terms of Robert Ruano talking that when we get to the item about that grant, I just wanted to give you a little more update about how that main LMS grant program works, because it is like the most central way of funding that we get, and the two proposals that El Portal has in now are really crucial. So I just want to take a few minutes for that when we get around to that too. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Gladwin. I look forward to hearing you on that. I was wondering the same thing. I was excited to hear from everybody about those projects. Any other village residents? No? Okay, hearing none, shall we move on to?
I think we got a hand up from a.
Oh, yes, Ms. Karina Castillo.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Karina Castillo, and I'm a resilience coordinator in the Miami-Dade County Office of Resilience. And I just really want to congratulate El Portal and for creating this task force, of course, the elected officials, but then of course you that volunteered and were appointed to generate your time to make El Portal better. So I just want to let you know that the County Office of Resilience stands ready to help you and ready to provide whatever resources we have and technical assistance to share. So thank you and congratulations again, and I'll be reaching out shortly.
Thank you so much, Ms. Castillo. It's wonderful to hear from you and nice to meet you virtually. And I think we're all looking forward to working with you and together, and excited that you joined us today. Do we have any other attendees that would like to speak? No? Okay. Hearing none. Moving on to, I believe, our first substantive agenda item, H, the roles and responsibilities of RNS Task Force Chair. So I think this was homework for Maribel and I. And let's see, so I've put together a little blurb on what I think the chairperson's responsibility should be. And I wonder if I can share my screen on this and which screen it will share.
At the bottom, you should see the green share screen button. And once you do that, you can select which item to share.
Perfect. Okay. Let's see. Give me 1 second. Sorry, it's asking a lot of permissions. Okay. It's going to make me restart if I want to do this. I think.
If you want to, Madam Chair, if you want to email it over to me really quickly, I can get it to the host, and they can put it on their screen and send it right
Okay, perfect.
I'll do the same thing.
Okay.
Oh, okay, great. All right, let's. Give me 1 second. Sorry, guys.
Yeah. Madam Chair, if I may, what we can do is I can go straight to H3 and we can just discuss that very quickly while you guys are doing that.
That would be great. Thank you.
So H3, you guys, is I want to discuss the structure of the RNS task force, the voting process. We kind of touched on this a little bit last time, I think at the very end toward the end of the meeting, and that is where, I don't know exactly what you guys want to do. What I advised last time, but it wasn't official, I just wanted to make it official this time. What I advised last time, Elizabeth, Chair Carpenter, I just got yours, and I'll wait for Maribel's. What I advised last time, you guys, was that you guys just adopt the same structure that we have at the council level, which is quorum and majority of quorum. So whereas if we have 4 individuals, you guys could pass things as majority. So it would be like, 3 out of 4 would have to pass. If it's 5 individuals on a quorum, 3 out of 5. If only 3 individuals show up, you still would have a quorum. So it would have to be 2 out of 3 to pass a item. If you guys have 4 people and it was a 2-2 tie, the item would die, things like that. I also wanted to discuss, because if you guys remember when this task force was created, this task force, it is the 5 of us, even though there's 1 missing right now, but as soon as I'm done here, I'm going to email her, but it is the 5 of us, you guys, or the 5 of you on the task force right now, but this task force can grow. My suggestion would be to keep the voting to the 5. Keep the voting to the main 5, even though you might have other individuals that might join the task force, because it can grow with other, professionals and things like that. I think that you 5 should be the voting 5 at the end of the day. So that way it won't get so crazy to where if you guys have 11 members, then, it might get kind of wild and difficult. That's my suggestion. This is your task force, so you guys can kind of decide what you want to decide. And once you guys decide, I guess we'll find a way to draw up a permanent way of writing it out.
There's voting members and then advisory members, basically, under that structure, right?
That's the way I would do it, is that you guys are the original 5. I think the original 5 that are assigned from the 5 council members should be the voting 5 at the end of the day, because I think otherwise it might get just too kind of like.
Do we have any idea what the impact of non-voting members has on Sunshine? Because my concern is the more people who are members, the more restriction we have on how much we can communicate and talk. I would want very few people to be members so we can actually get work done. And, if we have 11 members, that means those 11 people can't talk outside of the 2 hours per month or by month or whatever we decide to do. So I don't know what the rules are on that.
Yeah, absolutely. They would also be restricted by sunshine. That's something that you guys will have to figure out. It's like, for example, I think that when we first got started, the first meeting, Member McLean, she mentioned that, you know who would be good for this task force? It was somebody from Larchmont Park, I believe, or something like that. Like, even though they might be also restricted from sunshine, their contribution might be more important than the restriction of them not being able to talk to you guys because of sunshine. Their contribution might be worth it to still be part of the task force. So those are things you guys decide as a task force when you guys get to different individuals who you guys might want to be part of the task force. I think that also for voting purposes, when you guys want to make somebody part of the task force, I think you guys should approve that individual by majority, by 3 out of the 5. Approve the individual also. So, and things like that. I think that's the way you guys should go. But like I said, at the end of the day, it's up to you. I am sending your stuff out right now, Madam Chair.
Oh, thanks, Omar. Good suggestions. I think I guess to get stuff done, I kind of concur with once you have a quorum to pass things on a majority, I would suggest that more permanent things like adding members requires a majority of the voting members. So even if only 3 show up, you need all 3 to add a member. If all 5 show up, you still only need 3 to have a member. But if 3 show up, you don't have a minority of the overall task force adding a new member. That would be my suggestion on it. I also think as a suggestion as we vote that the committee can pass things, but we keep track and can put on whatever we vote on, who voted for and against, because there may be things where people want to say, hey, I disagree with this and I want it noted. So there's a difference, I think, in what goes to the council if it's a 5-0 or 4-0 versus a 3-2. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think that what I will do, you guys, I'll put together voting sheets. And so when you guys are doing your votes, what I'll do is I'll write like the agenda item, the subject matter, and I'll write your names with like lines right next to it. And I'll put together those voting sheets. In the meantime, I'll keep.
Mr. Vice Mayor, I don't think we need to make it. I'd suggest we don't make it overly complicated in tracking for you and for other folks. I'm only really talking about we approve the agenda. We don't need to know who approved and didn't. I don't really care. Either we did or we didn't. I'm talking about things like this storm safety action plan that as part of the document, the last page, I think the council sometimes does this where there's the vote and say, for, against, whatever it is. Something similar to that, just to be added to our deliverables that we're handing on, not just discussion points, I would say. That's my 2 cents.
So when you guys vote on something, I'll do it for that. So when we do things like approve the agenda or approve the minutes, if you guys notice, it's a yay or nay. It's not a roll call. So me being kind of like the quasi clerk for you guys, when you guys do get to situations that are more serious, like when we chose the chair and the vice chair, I went roll call for you guys. Those are the type of things that I'll record. And plus, you guys, these meetings are recorded and things like that also. And Member Kirk, your notes are wonderful. So, but definitely, you guys, that's my suggestion. What I'll do is I will. I'll write something out that's more formal with everything we just discussed. Member Kirk, I will put in there that when we're talking about adding a new member, that it is majority, but majority even if it's only 3 for a quorum, which is different from how we're doing every other vote. I'll make sure I write that language out. So I understand what you're saying. And I'll write that, and then next meeting, you guys, we can vote on that. So, all right, I'll have that formal paper next time. So that's that. Madam Chair, that's it for me on that subject. Does anybody else have anything they want to say on that particular subject?
Yeah, I wanted to also bring that up that we need this as you're documenting it so that we can put it again online so that people can research the work that we're doing and then go ahead and consider if there is a position available, how and what we do in all of that. So we're actually creating this entire thing that is going to be delineated online where people can access like everything that you need to know and to be a part of this task force for future.
Absolutely, absolutely, Madam Vice Chair. Madam Chair, that's it for me. I've sent Kyle, if you're listening, I sent you two things, two emails just recently, just a few minutes ago. One was from Ms. Carpenter, Chair Carpenter. The other one was from Vice Chair Fruitstone. If we can start off, Kyle, if you can share the screen for the first one from Chair Carpenter. It is the one that is entitled Chairperson Responsibilities. Yeah, I can do it myself. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Madam Chair, the floor is yours, Madam Chair. This is your item.
Sorry, I was muted. I know you all have not had an opportunity to read this. I'll just give you a quick, 20 seconds to look that over.
It's Kristen, I think it's great. And I like the fact that you wrote it in fairly, not fairly, very accessible language. It's great.
I'm good. I think it's, I echo what Kristen just said.
Okay, great. Vice Chair. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I like it. I'm a visual person. So when you see mine, I bulleted everything. So it was easier to like see like a list.
Gotcha. Okay, well, so does anybody have any specific changes, or are we accepting it as it is and such that we should go ahead and take a vote?
Give me one more second to continue reading.
Sure.
Sorry. I would propose that we look at both of them and then just decide on a uniform
Consistency.
format and then put them in the same format to approve them or whatever.
I agree. Great point. Okay, so one more second.
Madam Chair, if I may. Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead, Vice Mayor.
Thank you very much. It depends, you guys, because for example, like in our charter, the mayor and the vice mayor have two different, because it's kind of the same, but we keep them separate. So I don't know if you guys are talking about combining the two into one. Okay, I see. Okay, just making sure.
Literally just talking about whether or not we bullet them or don't bullet them so that they have a consistent look when we put them together.
And you know what, it actually might make sense to do, since Vice Mayor Nickerson, you're putting together the document or vote majority and quorum. Perhaps we combine all of these into one document where it lays out the responsibilities of the chairperson, vice chairperson, and our voting regulations. So maybe after we take a look at Vice Chair for outline of her responsibilities, we go ahead and pass on a vote this meeting until we see the final document Vice Mayor Nickerson is going to put together, and then we can vote on that, which includes all of these responsibilities. Okay, great. All right.
So sorry about that. I was looking at the other one that's coming up. So if we're good with this one, can we move and we can share the screen for the other one right now, and then we'll, if we have to come back to this one, we can.
I think, sorry. Yeah, Courtney, did you get a chance to finish reviewing? Everybody's all set?
Are we good?
Great.
So there we go, right on time. Madam Chair, I believe, Madam Vice Chair is her item, so if you want to pass it on to her, Madam Chair.
Yes, Vice Chair Fruitstone, please proceed.
Thank you. Well, this one, like I said, I'm a visual person, so it's easier for me to read, but it's based off of, you know, just supporting and assisting the chairperson in the task force responsibilities. I did add that if you are unable to attend a meeting, that I would be presiding along with our council representative, if it's not Omar. And I added a couple of things, you know, that I would contribute and voice, you know, objective opinions. But I think if you can see.
Maribel, I like this. My comment would be the last 4 items, I think, apply to everybody, not just the vice chair. I think, you know, we're all responsible for doing our individual assignments and making sure we're prepared for the meetings and contributing, et cetera. But I think really yours, the first bullets 1, 2, and 4 really, in my opinion, sum up what that vice chair duty is. You know, assist, preside in the absence of the chair, and work with the chair to make sure the agendas and stuff are taken care of. I think that's great. I think the others are stuff that we all have to do.
Yes, and that was my next point. I think that along with the 2 chair positions, that there should be a delineation of what an actual a voting member would be also doing, and maybe adding to that, like, so that they have their role defined as well. And to maybe put an extra with that role as being that the that members of the public can be asked to assist in some of these tasks, or like people that visit our meeting, you know, from the public. We can ask for volunteers or something, I don't know, somewhere around.
2 points. The first is that I agree with Courtney, and I think that we should take the 1, 2, and 4 as primary bullets specifically for the vice chair. And then I also really like some of the language, Elizabeth, that you put at the top of your description, which is of course not in front of me right now, so I have terrible verbatim recall, but basically about the civility of the meeting. And I would encourage us to consider putting it at the top of this description also, because I think setting an explicit expectation for the tones of meetings and for the civility of meetings is important right now. And then also I would second what you said, Maribel, about I think it's not a bad idea to have some just basic bulleted expectations of the other members of the committee in terms of attendance and participation. And I don't know that we talked about it explicitly, and I'm not, you know, I just, and we've had one member who now, this is our 2nd or 3rd meeting where we haven't had that person present, and no disrespect because I don't actually know her, but I do think that we've run into problems with the council over attendance, that it would be good. And of course, everybody has things that come up, but I do think a basic attendance expectation would be not a bad thing for us to codify in these documents.
Yeah, I think I agree with all of that as well. Perhaps since these are such a great outlining of responsibilities, perhaps we split this up into the vice chair roles from the bullets that we just discussed, and then take the remaining ones and just put them in a general member responsibility delegation.
Yeah, I like that.
Chair, if I may. So,
Yes.
thank you. So do you all want the first format or the bullet format when I do both the chair and the vice chair roles and responsibilities?
I personally prefer bullet points, but that's my 2 cents.
So my inclination is for a more descriptive term, just to match the resolution that created us in the first instance, but I'm happy to defer if people feel strongly about either.
Don't feel strongly, but just prefer bullet points, that's all.
Any suggestion from the vice chair or Member McLean. This is something you guys, we don't have to vote on right now because I'm going to put it together, and then when it's a fit, when it's like there, then we can vote. Then you guys can look at it, delete, or say, oh no, Omar, this doesn't, like put something else in or whatever, and then we'll go from there.
We can also take the language in the chairperson responsibility that I provided and keep essentially the same language, but break it out into bullet points if that's easier to visually digest instead of, so, without shortening the language, keep that, but have it in a bullet point format.
That's what I thought.
Okay.
That's a good compromise and actually makes it very easy to read.
Great.
So take the other one. So Kyle, if you can put the original one back up for me, please, real quick. The chair responsibilities. Make it a little bit larger for us, please, if you get a chance. A little bit smaller.
So on this one, I mean, just to use the exact phrasing, I'd say the overall purpose of the task force chairperson is to colon and then bullet point, ensure that the participants of a meeting stick to the agenda, respect each other and respect the rules of the meeting, to ensure that meetings are appropriately planned for and coordinated, lead the meetings, that kind of a thing.
Yeah, I think that's great.
So are you guys, because I think I heard earlier, so you guys are saying that like that first sentence, the one where the task force chairperson is to ensure that the participants of a meeting stick to the agenda, respect each other, and respect the rules of the meeting. That's for the chairperson though, correct? Because I think that, McLean, didn't you say something like there's some sentences you want to take from here and make it general for the entire?
I was suggesting that we insert some similar language or supportive language into the vice chair specifically related to that mandate. So that the vice chair is supporting the chair in these points having to do with.
And when we do the member thing, I think that is also an appropriate thing to put for the members, that, that we stick to the agenda, respect each other, and respect the rules, that it's not just being forced down from the top, that we have responsibility to ourselves and to each other.
Love it.
Perfect. All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. I have my homework. I appreciate it, you guys. I'll put it all together. Like I said, at that point when I put it together, if it's what you guys want, we can vote on it then. If it's not, and there's things that you guys still want to change, that I can get those last final changes, take it back, and finish it up, and then at last time we'll vote on it if that's the case. But I'll try to make it as perfect as I can next time, so hopefully maybe we'll be able to vote on it next time. All right.
Yeah, we can even vote on it with minor changes, right? Like we can make the changes within the meeting potentially, right?
We can vote on it with minor changes, yes.
Perfect.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Kyle. I appreciate it.
All right, moving on to the next agenda, our Storm Safety Action Plan. And I will turn this over to you, Kristen. Oh, you're muted.
All right, hold on a second. I'm going to try to pull it up so that we can look at it together, but that means I have to actually pull it up on my screen first. So I've stuck it all into Google Drive. Now I have to pull it back down.
So, Kristen, while you're pulling it up, I tried to take what you had and make it pretty, I think, and do some of what the chair did with her roles and responsibility description, kind of do a combination of bullet points and sentences.
Were you looking at the finished version that actually is on letterhead?
Whatever was the latest thing that was sent, but it's significantly tweaked in phrasing.
Okay.
I don't know. Like, this is part of the sunshine problems. I wanted to send this out shortly after you had yours. Say, hey, are we okay with this kind of stuff? Is this not where we want to do stuff? And of course, I, appropriately, apparently, got slapped down by Mr. Nickerson saying, yeah, that's nice, great idea. You have to wait until meeting. So again, I don't know how you'd like to proceed.
I'm open to whatever. Right now, I'm just trying to get the damn thing on the right version of it open. So.
Chair, if I may. Madam Chair.
Yes, please, Vice Mayor, sorry.
Thank you very much. My suggestion would be, while she's opening, my suggestion would be, Member Kirk, were you going to share your screen or?
I can.
Okay, my suggestion would be that Member Kirk shares his screen because I think that he adjusted a little bit. We look over it, Kristen looks over it, and she might say, because she's the one that worked on this, she might have an idea of, oh, like, well, that might work, or no, there's things that Courtney, that I need in there that now are missing or whatever. I think that we should do that right now.
Yeah, and what I wanted to do was just kind of try and create a template as well that we can use for additional deliverables. So the first thing is just, really, yeah, who cares? It's a pretty page, blah, blah, blah. A table of contents, and I took, in most cases, just cut and paste, but in some cases reworded some things. But so let me just go with the layout and see if that makes any sense, or if you guys don't like it, and that's fine too. So let me see if I can make it a little bigger for you. A quick table of contents, and then, kind of the background and summary, which, basically were taken, not exactly word for word, but mostly word for word, from what Kristen had, just taken from different sections in the document. So that was that piece. And then the recommendations, bulleted out into the 4 different things, each one, again, significantly using Kristen's content. In some cases, I tweaked a word or 2 here and stuff. In some cases, I made a bullet point, a sentence, and a sentence, a bullet point, etc. And that kind of stuff. Now, again, I don't know whether this is acceptable, and I'm going to kind of lean back to Kristen to say, yeah, that's not at all kind of the way I would want to present the information, or yeah, that's fine. And then just to our other discussion point at the very end, I could put in a voting table so that if we wanted to say who concurred or dissented with it. And again, Kristen, I would have loved to collaborate. Damn sunshine stuff makes it impossible to actually get work done.
Yeah. So let me just first say that I'm not at all precious about it. So, and I appreciate you as a lawyer coming in and putting a lot of good official structure on top of this. So that's awesome. The only concern that I have about it, and it's acknowledging the fact that I think what's going to happen is that this is going to go to the council, and then the council is going to say this needs to be integrated with our existing management plan, and then all of this structure is going to be, like for naught. But that doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter what way it goes over. And I do like I do think that the structural presentation creates a very nice impression of our professionalism. So I'm all for that because I think that that's important. So I don't have any issues with this. I think I don't know if Courtney, if you want to point out anything specific from an editorial point of view that you changed, otherwise, or we could also just talk about whether or not people had any fundamental. I can't Courtney, see your edits. That's what's going on. Is you do have you're in edit mode right now, but I can't see the changes off on the right hand. Oh, there we go. All right.
The problem is that since
I know it's super messy, right? It's gonna be impossible to see it.
So much stuff, but you can see just a couple things. A word here, a word there. I took some of the formatting different. I cut and pasted different things that you had. I mean, really, I guess I don't know how governmental organizations get around this and actually get anything done. Seriously.
They have staff.
Yeah, well, the staff could work. I'll have my staff work with Kristen's staff.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, so just let's put aside from my point of view, let's put aside the gussing up piece of this and like just focus on the content and see whether or not you guys have any specific pushback on any of the things that are in here, whether or not you think they're the right things that we should be putting forward in terms of, remember that the whole point of this, which is summarized in the background, is the fact that we're putting this out right now as our first act because, as I mentioned in the earlier part of the meeting, we feel a sense of urgency over just a really concrete plan for managing a potential flood situation this season. And I do think, Courtney, in here, there's language somewhere about the fact that mentioning the fact that this should be integrated, or I'm pretty sure I put language in here somewhere about folding this into other existing village programs. I don't remember exactly where it is. So if you guys have any specific feedback on the content as opposed to the, format? So
I most of my feedback was not on the real substance of it. It was just kind of the categorization of things, so when we talk about, and I'm looking at the version that, Kristen shared, but developing a management plan, I just kind of changed around some subcategories and things like that, but like the substance of it and the heart of it, I had no issues with, and I thought was great. Yeah. So it's kind of hard to review. Go ahead, Courtney.
We want to, it's up to you guys. I'll do whatever. We can go with the version that Kristen presented because everybody got that and could look at it. We can go with this and we can just go page by page or paragraph by paragraph if you want.
Well, I'll tell you, I think ultimately, Courtney, we want to actually, I like the structure that you created. And like I said, I think putting it out as a more formal, professionally, formatted document with subheaders and all that is great. Let's go back into my version just to identify the people's reactions to the first version. And then let's try to reconcile that version with your version, Courtney, because you have a sense of what you changed. So can we,
hold on, I can bring it up in a second.
In fact, if you could bring up both, can you bring up both side by side? That might be a heavy lift, but if we could.
Hold on, where was, there we go.
Yeah, and I apologize. My internet kicked me off for a minute there, and I may have missed this. But Courtney, are your changes mostly in layout and formatting, or is there a significant substantive change?
Predominantly layout and formatting. Some of it is reorganizing where the point was made and putting it in a different grouping. But for the 90% of it is 90% of it is purely tactical. Let me stop sharing and I will share my entire screen. And I don't know, hopefully, can you guys see both things?
I can see it.
I can see it. As a visual person, I like right now Courtney's from what I see. I actually have Kristen's printed out. I would tend to say that some of it needs to be like that we need to combine the two.
Well, if there's, so.
Because I like the square or the rectangle.
Well, so I think we have to choose one layout or the other, right? I wasn't going for quite as formal a layout as what Courtney has. And before we wrestle over the layout and the call outs, I still think we should drill down to the core things that the document is saying to make sure that what we're asking for, that nobody has any issues with the fundamental things that we're asking for in here. And in my version, the first version, basically what I was really just trying to lay out the case for what we were trying to do. And then basically the structure of it was to define the flood zones, right? To develop a management plan and to call out the things underneath there that could be tied directly to resilience, right? Which may or may not be important, but that's what I was doing that. I was thinking about that as I was doing it. Then develop the communication plan for that emergency management plan, and then the last thing had to do with developing some kind of short-term mitigation program that the village could help the residents with. So those were really the 4 bullets of what I was going for in the short term. And then there were a couple of recommendations, one at the top and one at the bottom, that have to do with asking the village to take action on developing a standalone flood, the ability to evacuate people in flood zones independent of the county, and then to encourage the village to create a structure for revisiting and growing and actively managing the document. So that's 6 points overall. So does anybody have any fundamental issues with any of that top line stuff?
No, I didn't. Again, as I said, I thought it was on point and concise, which I appreciated.
By looking at them side by side, it does seem that Kristen's is more reader friendly for if somebody went online to look at it in a quick way. And then the other one would be something that is on file with the village as a formal explanation of it, by looking at side by side, where I'm seeing one, it looks more like an outline, and the other one is the paragraphs.
Courtney, can you scroll down a little bit more? I haven't seen much past the first page. Thank you. So I think at this point I think we need to decide which one we'd like to go with, and if we feel comfortable doing a line by line at this time in order to approve it today. Otherwise, I think we have to defer to the next meeting if we don't do a line by line of either of them, really.
So to me, this was the most important thing of today's meeting, was to go through this and get this hopefully approved, assuming we can all agree, or most of us can agree. So I would suggest that whatever we have to do to get this agreed upon and moved to the council is what we should do. That would be my suggestion to the chair.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for that. Like, as I said in my in the beginning meeting, I also say it in this document, we're not going to let the great be the enemy of the good. So I would like for us to settle on a version and pass it over with the understanding that the council is probably going to modify it, and/or it is going to get integrated into a larger effort that the village is working on. So whatever we have here probably is going to get chopped up or changed anyway in its final form before being adopted by the council. And I think, Maribel, to your point about accessibility, part of what this is, part of the recommendations here is to create a communication plan. So it doesn't really bother me if it's a little dense to be posted on the website. If someone really wants to go after it, they'll figure it out. And the part that's meant to be accessible for the village is the part that we're advocating for in terms of the communication plan. So I'm okay either way. I want to ask Omar, just from a process point of view, can you talk us through the most likely scenario when this gets presented to the council? What is most likely to happen with it?
Yeah, so when it comes to the council, what we're going to do is we're going to go through it, and we'll either pass it in its entirety as a resolution, or we will, if there's problems with it, what we could do is, like, for example, we're going through it and somebody's like, and as a council, we decide, okay, we're comfortable with all of this, but there's a difference of opinion on like something over here, then we can put some of it into a resolution, and then have the other part of it to work on for like a future resolution. So it just depends on, like, I can't speak for the other council members, so it depends on how they feel about the document.
So in which case would it be, so would that then be, so let's think about what happens when it hits the council. Is the council likely, because the council is going to want to go through it line by line, in that case, is it better to pass them a simpler document?
Not necessarily, because you need to pass it with whatever is going to be the way that we're going to understand it the best. Because when this becomes, when I'm going to put this on the, if it passes through this task force, I'm going to put it on the agenda. Once I put it on the agenda, that agenda packet is going to go out with the village clerk, and it's going to go out the same way it went out for you guys. Once she advertises it, it's going to go out, and she usually puts it out like either Friday afternoon for a Tuesday meeting. So we're going to have all weekend to go through all of those items that's on whatever agenda that is. And this is going to be one of the items on the agenda.
Okay, can I ask you another question? So we're proposing an official El Portal Emergency Flood Storm Management Plan. Is the chief still on, or did he take off?
I think he might have took off.
He's still here. No, he's here.
He's here.
So chief, the manager isn't here right now, so maybe you can answer this question. Does the village officially have some form of an emergency management plan now?
There is an emergency plan that was put together. I know I work with the manager on it. And that's something she would have to make comment on, but we did put a plan together. There is a plan in place. We were working on it. Is it as in-depth as this is right here? Or, oh, no, I mean, this is excellent for the, for what needs to get done for flooding and things along those lines. And that's something that probably can get incorporated into it. But I don't want to overstep my boundaries either, as far as what more needs to go into it. Whatever's proposed here and it goes before the council, will certainly get it put in there as they see fit. There is a plan in place, though, to answer your question. And I know we worked on it months ago.
Yeah.
And so I don't have it with me to refer to at this point, but sure the manager could comment on that at a later time.
So the reason that I'm raising that question is I don't know if we want to recommend developing an official El Portal Emergency Flood Storm Management Plan or whatever it is, if there is already something in place. So we may want to be recommending in Courtney's 3.2, in my 2, whether or not, that we modify that language to be about improving or integrating this into an existing, integrate, so we may want to take some.
But I also would submit to you that perhaps taking a look at it, as a committee, may answer a lot of questions too, the plan that's already in place.
Yeah.
That may go a long way. And you're absolutely right. There is a lot of things I can tell you right off the bat that would be great to incorporate within it in one section or other.
So I think maybe I just don't want the council to get hung up on that. I want to make it clear that this is not, I just don't want them to slow down on the fact that there already is one and we're proposing another one, that really what we're asking for is them to take this and integrate it.
Well, this is specific to flooding, and I'm sure there's room for supplementation on the existing. That I have no doubt on. So how it gets done is another story, but it shouldn't be all that difficult. And this would fit in perfectly as a supplement, as an appendix, or even within the verbiage itself.
Got it. Okay.
Vice Mayor, go ahead.
Yeah, so what we could do, Member McLean, we can introduce it in the resolution. We can introduce it as to take like whatever's in there and add it to the existing one. And if it's all, if it's about flooding, then under the whole management plan, the part about flooding, we can add it to that part. Those will be discussions that we'll have at the council level, because there'll be things that the manager will bring up about, okay, well, we still have to be in compliance with the county and this and that, and all those type of discussions will be coming up.
Yeah,
Well,
it's like the language that Courtney just now added, develop or enhance, kind of covers our bases on that, and then the village can do whatever procedurally they need to make it fit within the government structure and their mandates. This is just my 2 cents.
Okay, I'm cool with that.
So did we kind of go through, and I think Chair, you had some edits or some comments, or were you just reorganizing where certain bullet points were in the original document?
A little bit of both. Honestly, it was pretty minor. I thought that Kristen did a great job reflecting the discussion that we had in our last meeting. I thought the points that we made were incorporated really nicely. I think that unless anyone disagrees, I think at this point that we should just pick one of these and go line by line so that we can get this knocked out and not kick it down the can, kick it down the road for another 3 weeks. I think that the comments that I have on the version that Kristen had provided could be easily translated to either one. Now that I've seen a little bit more of your new version, Courtney, and I think the lawyer in me likes your formatting a little bit better, but I agree that that Kristen's document is more accessible and easier to read. But if we want to make this really, a very official looking document that the council can easily adopt, I think I would perhaps lean towards the formatting changes that Courtney has made with the great substance that Kristen provided.
I'm fine with that.
Okay. So we want to go back.
Vice Chair Fruitstone, do you have any thoughts on that, on utilizing Courtney's formatting on the left here?
I am okay with either one. The Courtney one looks more formal, so that when council reads it, it's more formal. So.
Okay. All right. So if there's no objections, I guess we can proceed through a line item analysis of if we can't vote on it.
Yep.
Great. Courtney, do you want to lead us through that?
Sure.
Kristen's substantive assistance.
Let's just, unless anybody cares, just a cover page with what the title is, our title, what the title,
All good.
The date. I'll update the date to today, the 26th. This will be auto-generated for any changes that we make in the other items. So.
Oh, can you leave it on?
Yep.
For 1 second, just to see how you've formatted. Thank you. That looks great.
Kristen, you all right with it?
Totally fine.
All right, the background I think was pretty much a cut and paste. I might have changed a word or two here.
I had a comment on this part. Right actually where you're, okay, let's see. So right there actually, right before your highlight, it says as well as longer term resiliency scenario. I think we're just missing a verb in that sentence. If you look from the beginning, these recommendations are designed to form the basis of a practical plan the village can adopt. Oh wait, I think the wording has changed a little. These recommendations. Yeah, adopt, implement, and then as well as longer term resilience scenarios, we need a verb, whether it's, animate, adopt, something like that.
Well, doesn't improve, modify that?
Input to improve current safety features as well as.
So these recommendations.
Implement.
To improve current safety procedures as well as longer term resiliency scenarios.
Okay, so then we should take out the comma. And then that's what that'll mean.
Done.
Current safety. Yeah, okay, perfect. And then I had an is that needed to be added. Oh, it looks like Courtney got that.
Let me just say, you guys, just as a matter of record, when I write something and I have worked on it for a while, I'm incapable of spotting typos in my own writing. I just cannot do it.
Totally
So,
understand.
When I do this stuff for work, there's a guy I work with, and I'm like, okay, your turn. I cannot look at this anymore because it all looks perfect because I've read it and I wrote it.
Yeah, that's me too. But I also use Grammarly, and that helps sometimes.
sometimes I read backwards, but it's still, I always need to pass it to somebody for a final edit.
So in the last sentence of that paragraph, these plans are designed to be additive to any existing village emergency plans following learnings from Irma. It's almost like limiting it to learnings from Irma. So I would
let's end it. Let's end it. Emergency plans.
Okay. I was gonna, and other flood and storm events. Because
the real point is if there's something in place, we want this to be added to it, right? That's the most important directive.
Well, I like that you say that the emergency plan should be animated by, prior natural disasters. So I think that the Irma is helpful. And yeah, I said Irma and other flood and storm events. It kind of speaks to the purpose that we need to be learning and applying our experiences. And that's all the changes I had on that portion.
Anything else before we lock and load section 1?
Nope, not for me.
Okay, so what happened to the box, Courtney? Where did that get moved to?
That became the summary,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
At least it formed the basis of the summary.
Yep. Bring that one up for.
Okay. The summary looks good to me. And then where did the following language come from, given the acute timing of these recommendations? Oh, that came from the other box.
Yep.
Okay.
So the second part of the summary is basically saying, hey, this is a living document, and I like, for what Kristen had, I really think that this speaks to it. Septic, sewer, other stuff that it's not locked and loaded and you're done. So I like that. You okay with the summary? Anybody need more time to look at it?
I like the structure. I like that you brought those two things together, because really they are the most action-oriented part of, or the most pressing part of what we're recommending.
So Courtney, the somewhere in Kristen's document, it said updated every calendar year. Is that changed to regularly now?
No, it says calendar year at the bottom of page 1.
Yeah.
Okay. So it says recommendations.
What I was trying to do is make sure that the village puts it under a committee and
Right.
makes it
calendar so it doesn't get ignored.
part of the regular cycle of refreshing and updating.
Okay, so up here we say we're setting a cadence to have it updated regularly, and then at the bottom, this allows.
Regularly, and our recommendation then is, hey, put it on the start of every calendar year.
Okay. Ensure in the last line is with an E, E-N, sure.
I thought, we might get Geico in here.
That looks good.
Anybody else? Maribel, you good on the summary?
Yes, I am good on the summary.
Okay. All right. So then the key recommendations, did I appropriately grab them? And I'm going to direct that to Kristen. Are these the right 4? Kristen, you with me?
Yes, I'm just double muted. Develop the third bullet, I'd like to add a really specific, the way I would word it is develop a public service campaign to communicate the official El Portal emergency management plan to the community.
Do we need official bolded for any particular reason?
Um,
You mean capitalize?
no, this
Oh,
here, that was bolded in the initial one.
that was an accident
Okay.
or a typo, depending on how you choose to categorize it.
And Courtney, just things like what we're calling the emergency plan and like what we're capitalizing, are those kind of consistent throughout?
I'd like to think I was consistent. I'm going to say I'd like to think I was consistent.
So is it the official El Portal Emergency Management Flood/Storm Plan? Is that the full name?
See, the next sentence doesn't say that, right? But that's a very good point. What do we want to have as the official?
I think the fact that it mentions flood is important. And so I prefer the first usage, and then we should just replace everything else with that.
Why don't we say flood ampersand storm plan instead of slash? Looks a little more official.
And that needs to be changed in the summary as well.
Good catch. Good catch.
That's why God made replace.
That's what I was going to suggest too.
Search and replace, but the question is, what the heck am I guess I'm going to do it here. Even though I could look storm/flood. I guess I could do a search and replace. Yes, you're right. Fine.
Does that change the capitalization of those terms?
We're just gonna, since I don't trust Word to do a lot of things right. Okay, no matches of storm/flood. Okay, back to normal.
All right.
Sorry. Good catch. Whoever had that. I guess we should be consistent. Is it an or the?
Development. Well, it's the, because yeah, official is part of the title.
Okay.
Before we move on, when we were going over the initial presentation with Kristen, these are the 4, but she had mentioned 6. Do we need to include the other 2 that she had possibly suggested?
They became the summary.
Yeah.
The other 2
okay.
pieces became the summary, so they're
Okay.
already there.
All right, so we're good on key recommendations of section 3.0 kind of thing?
Yes.
Okay, 3.1.
Okay. Why is this for internal village purposes?
That was the discussion on whether it would negatively impact people's
Right,
property.
right. Thank you.
Yep. Anything on 3.1? Kristen, you're making sure that I haven't in any way realistically changed your meaning. Am I correct?
I don't think so.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
No, I think this is all good. I was talking over my mute about the reason you're exactly right, Elizabeth, about the internal village purposes. It just wanted to make the point that this is sensitive information and should not be part of the PSA in terms of which specific lots, which specific areas of the village. It really is about the chief and the village manager having a good working sense of the houses that will be affected in different flood scenarios.
Gotcha. Good. Great point. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Just the title, identify 2 zones to identify those most at flood risk.
Redundant.
I identify. I can't understand why.
It's create 2 zones to identify.
And maybe like risk of flooding instead of flooding risk.
Instead of those, can it be properties?
And risk for flooding, I think.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
That 3.1 looks great to me now.
Okay. Before we go on to 3.2, any other things?
Looks good to me.
Maribel, Kristen?
Looks good.
Looks good.
All right, 3.2.
All right, that's the flood ampersand storm management plan.
I must have had the, yeah, well called. Hate it when that happens.
Oh, and then developing the official instead of an. Okay.
I don't know if this comma is appropriate or not.
I think it's appropriate.
Okay. You okay with the intro to 3.2?
Looks good to me.
Yes.
Yep.
3.2.1.
Did I use this language or is this your language, Courtney?
I'm guessing it is probably yours, but let me just review.
I was feeling pretty highfalutin when I wrote that.
No.
I know.
Yeah, it looks like there's, I mean, the stuff in black is you, so it's, I don't know. It's close.
Yeah, no worries. I mean, it's fine. I think it's totally fine. It's accurate.
Do we want to limit this to June and November?
Where?
Do we want to limit the assessment time for just hurricane season? Because we had that major flood before June.
I don't know. I'd ask the chief. I mean, the protocol that we're on right now where we're really watching the weather and having this background conversation almost every day doesn't have to happen year round. So I don't know what the chief thinks about that.
Well, the storms we're talking about primarily are going to be during hurricane season. I mean, there can be other storms and rain events that can cause a little bit of issue within the village, but this is primarily a hurricane plan, a hurricane action plan by and large, or at least that's what we have. And there is a flood chapter, the last few pages, or in the midst of that report as well. That I'm certain of. So again, like I said earlier, some of this can be looked over and we can incorporate what fits, or you all take a look and see what you think fits. But I think the hurricane season would be sufficient. You know, you can always do a full year thing, but we're talking about June through November.
Yeah, I mean, so that was Memorial Day weekend, and that storm then was classified, as soon as it moved past us, was classified as a tropical storm. And it dropped, I think, 6 inches of rain on us that Monday, which is 6 inches, 6 inches an hour that Monday, which is what caused that final day of flooding.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, the only thing that we might want to modify here is just from you know, I don't know. I feel okay about this, or you could put May to November, since it will almost never happen outside of May. Or you can say that it's triggered by the first, you know,
tropical
system that approaches Florida.
I think that'd be great as a compromise.
That way you take the date out of it and then you're good to go.
It's all right.
Tropical weather system.
As soon as as soon as tropical weather systems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to pull
Weather
out from the
systems
meeting now.
approach.
No, I think as soon as a tropical weather system is approaching, that's fine. Because then, if you get a freak storm sometime, the point is that as soon as we start to have a storm approach us at any time of the year, that's when this protocol would kick in.
Vice Mayor,
Yes, Madam Chair.
you had your hand up?
I was saying, the chief was saying he has to go. I was just saying bye to the chief. He has to go.
Okay. Thank you so much, Chief Magnuson.
Thank you. Y'all have a great day.
Thanks,
Look
Chief.
forward to reading the highlights. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care, y'all.
My only concern with that language, and this is just I think my lack of complete understanding on this term, but I mean, how are we defining a tropical weather system? Is that a clearly defined term that we don't need to worry about, or is that going to be something that we're going to kind of grapple with?
Well, they have them declared as tropical depressions, tropical, subtropical, I don't know.
You could say a tropical weather system as defined by NOAA is approaching, because
Okay.
NOAA will be the one that will say, this is an invest, this is a tropical depression, this is something we're watching.
Okay.
Yeah, that's better.
It's NO8. No, it's
National Oceanic and Atmospheric.
okay. Gotcha.
That's right. It's approaching South Florida, I would put, to be specific.
And then, I mean, again, I know I'm being really nitpicky and like worldly about this, but like, what does approaching South Florida mean?
I don't have an issue with that, because I just basically mean if we're in the cone of probability, or if it has any potential. I mean, this is like right now we're watching a wave off the coast of Africa right now that could develop into something. So
yeah, it's just I don't want to make it overly onerous on the city to have to look at every potential storm off the coast of Africa that could be potentially approaching South Florida either, but I don't want to be under-inclusive. Vice Mayor.
Chair, when you get a chance, Hugh Gladwin raised his hand. He might have some.
there he is. Let's let Hugh chime in on this one.
Okay. Mr. Gladwin, please go ahead.
We could bring Hugh Gladwin in.
Okay.
Thought I heard you.
Hey. Okay, my video's not working, but that's okay. Yeah, I think the language should be, the agency is the National Weather Service, which is part of NOAA, but that covers the National Hurricane Center and the forecast of the whole apparatus. So, and it should be somehow, rather than a tropical weather system, it should be I would just call it a potential threat, potential tropical cyclone threat. Tropical cyclone is a technical term for, all hurricanes, tropical storms, all of those things.
Would that also apply to what happened in late May for the storm? Was that a tropical cyclone or no?
Okay, in this part, actually, that's a very good point, Courtney, because the recommendation talks about major threats and moderate threats. The moderate flooding threat is like what happened in Memorial Day. So this language should apply just to the major threat. I'm trying to find where I have a copy to scroll back, but I mean, the thing is, the minor flooding threat, I have my informal web page that, the chief may use as he wishes to, publicize information, and that will cover moderate flooding. But I think in your recommendations, moderate flooding is really covered by things like sandbags and things to help people who are vulnerable to that dealing with this. This is something completely different. This is, you know, the village's recommendations for the village's hurricane action plan. So, you know, I can't scroll. I mean, I can't see the document, but maybe it should go, if you go back up, maybe centralized threat assessment, or risk is often used too. Risk assessment for, I leave threat, that's okay. I think for major, whatever the heading is for major flooding.
Storm events.
Major storm and flood
For
event.
major storm events.
Yeah. It is, by the way, important to sort of always have the word flooding in there, because you know, this is something 2 weeks ago I talked to the chief a lot about. If we have a flood situation that deviates from the county's evacuation plan, we sort of talked about the village will treat that as different than a hurricane event. It's a flood event. It would be like there was a fire or chemical spill.
Yeah, that was one of my questions. So can we bracket here for 1 second, Madam Chair?
Yes, of course.
So I put this so as not to violate sunshine, and maybe Omar's going to tell me that I did it anyway, but I don't think I did. I actually put my version of the document out to the village manager and to the chief for their feedback in advance of this meeting, so that I would be able to know if they had any specific feedback going into this meeting. And in general, they were fine with it. You know, Christia said, we're doing a lot of things that we can certainly integrate this. We have to evaluate whether or not we're, you know, how we can execute what you're asking for. And the one thing that the chief said in his feedback was he's very skeptical of whether or not El Portal would get permission to have a separate evacuation zone for the village in the situations where the county would be causing evacuations to happen, like a storm. And my question back to him, which wasn't resolved, but I do want to just put it in the minutes here as something that needs to be discussed, is if we found out that, you know, there was going to be a flood event along 86th Street that was higher than nuisance flooding, and we didn't get permission from the county to call an evacuation, but we know that people's lives are going to be at risk, how does the village deal with that? And I think this is something the council's going to have to discuss. I don't know what you think about that, Omar, but just I want to put it here that that is something that he flagged as problematic in terms of going to speak to the county. So Hugh, I don't know if you.
Yeah, like I say, we did have this back and forth on it, the chief and I think what we felt was, first off, you know, on evacuation, the local authority is the final word on evacuation, point one. Point two is evacuation is never mandatory. You actually can never arrest somebody for not evacuating. So the sort of conclusion is it's fully within the power of the village to order people to evacuate certain areas of the village for a threat of flooding or fire or any other kind of threat in the area. But I think also this is something that should be discussed with the county, but normally that would be the chief discussing sort of one-on-one with the county. What we don't want, and I think it needs to be carefully taken out of here, is any language about the village having a different evacuation plan. In other words, that's why we have flooding in this document the whole time. So it's both hurricane threats and flooding. So I think you need, if you could just.
We need to go back up to the top then.
And make sure you're not saying anything about.
It's under the summary.
Yeah.
Official standalone evacuation plan?
Just an official evacuation plan, Hugh? That's not a standalone? Can we just say an official evacuation plan for the village and just leave it at that?
So that's separate from the county.
Yeah, I would cut out separate from the county, and I would call it an official
Evacuation plan.
or flood evacuation plan. Don't put standalone, just put flood evacuation.
How about we say, are we saying flood and storm or storm and flood, just to be consistent with everything else we've said?
Just flood because
We want it to be independent of
yeah,
hurricanes.
the circumstances, what we're talking about is a situation of a tropical storm even that stalls over the area and we get massive rainfall. You know, it may be only a tropical storm and the county doesn't call any evacuations. Or even in the case of Irma, the county did not.
Yeah,
for
Courtney,
that.
we need to remove standalone from that first
Yeah.
sentence.
Anything that makes it look like
Order to implement an official evacuation flood plan for the village of El Portal. The mayor, chief, and village manager will need to meet with MDA County Emergency Management to outline an El Portal specific plan. This plan should be based on the identification of the flood zone recommendations below and should focus on evacuation of low-lying areas of the village during moderate to major flood scenarios where county evacuation zones may be out of alignment with likely flood areas.
You want to remove that, Hugh?
I think, yeah,
Keep it at scenarios.
Yeah.
yeah, right. Yeah, no, that's good.
Great.
Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, are we cool? We went back and undid some stuff or redid some stuff. I want to make sure. Yes?
Yes, I respect you as an expert.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Gladwin.
You're welcome.
All right, so are we changing this to develop an El Portal emergency flood management plan?
No, I think flood and storm is okay because we're enhancing an existing, we might be enhancing an existing
Okay.
storm management plan. I think we should leave it and let the council
Okay.
hash that out.
I'm sorry, guys. Could someone just, in one sentence, summarize the last 2 minutes? As I
Go ahead,
Okay.
Courtney.
Internet.
I froze there for a second because I asked for something and there was absolutely no movement at all, no blinking of eyes, nothing. So internet connectivity.
Staring you down.
We basically did a few tweaks to the summary to basically make sure we are not conflicting with Miami-Dade County.
Okay.
I think
Gotcha.
that was the summary.
Okay, and then the risk assessment. So we're only applying, if you don't mind scrolling down a little bit, Courtney, just what we were just discussing. The centralized risk assessment, that is only applying to the major flooding events, not the modest nuisance, moderate flooding events. Is that correct?
Kristen? You're muted still.
I'm sorry, can you say that, Madam Chair? Can you say it one more time, your question?
Yes, so the centralized threat assessment, we say centralized threat assessment for major flood and storm events. So we're only having 3.2.1 apply to major flooding incidences as we define them above, as opposed
Yes.
to modest or moderate.
Correct, and that was at Hugh's advice, because we don't need to go in, we don't need to force this protocol for something like what happened over Memorial Day, although we'll deal with it on a block by block, level. But we don't need to evacuate. We don't need to.
It's not. It's a property concern.
It's not a life and limb kind of situation.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so the only thing I might add is if we just make that a little bit clearer that 3.2.1 is using the term major flooding as defined in 3.1, whatever section it is.
Yep.
So we might need to put that in 3.2, the larger header.
Or you might want to put it after the bracket of National Weather Service. So the village should develop a specific protocol for tracking and evaluating relevant data as soon as a potential tropical cyclone that could as defined by the National Service, that could create a major flood event?
Major flooding as defined by whatever section it is above. .1, and you want to capitalize major flooding just to be consistent.
And you want
actually, that's fine. You say as defined. So let me.
Yeah, this is a run-on sentence.
Yeah. Has the potential to create a major flood event as defined by section 3.1, period. So the village should develop a specific protocol for tracking and evaluating relevant data as soon as a potential tropical cyclone has the potential to create a major flood event as defined by section 3.1.
Yeah, because we already talked about the flood event applying to El Portal, right?
Right, right.
Kristen, you all right with that?
Yes.
And then the other issue that we had with approaching, like, what does could create a major flood event mean? Is there a 1% chance? Is there a 0.1% chance? Or is there a 40% chance? So I think maybe we should choose, I know I proposed that, but we should choose stronger language or clearer language.
I guess I wouldn't go that far, just because I don't think, well, I'll speak for myself. I'm not an expert to say whether 25% is the right number or 95% is the right number.
I don't think that we should propose a percentage. I just think we need a better term than could create.
Predicted to create?
Can I say something here?
Yes, please, Hugh.
Yeah, we shouldn't use any percentage because actually, you know, as soon as there's no way of knowing when some storm comes off of Africa and, you know, the Hurricane Center says, okay, guys, we're in a really active phase starting now, and you can expect something in the next few weeks. There's no way to give any percentage. A storm coming off of Africa is like 0.01% usually, so we don't want to get trapped into any language.
Yeah, and actually, Elizabeth, I would rather keep it. I would rather keep it open, because look at what just happened with Laura, for instance. Like, what we want is people looking at them if they could possibly, but then they don't. So we just want to make sure that people are watching.
I agree. I was certainly not proposing a percentage. I was just trying to explain that could create could literally mean 0.0001%, like, and that still could create. So I just didn't want to use the term could. I think predicted is a better term.
Are we okay with the phrasing we have now? And I'm going to ask that to Kristen in particular, that as soon as a potential tropical cyclone.
Yeah, I feel like predicted is too strong, because not every storm is going to even be predicted to create flooding, but we need to be vigilant. So
Likely?
no, I still like the language could, because if it's in the hurricane season, we just need to watch everything that comes, anything that comes in our direction.
Potential.
Yeah, actually, when we look at this, hold on, let me, we have it here. Let me just take out this bit.
How would you guys feel about has the potential to create a major flood event?
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Kristen?
Yep.
All right, we have some wording for 3.2.1. That was like pulling teeth.
Hang on one second though. I think we're just grammatically.
My other point is that it's already 5:30. Are we going to push through to finish this?
I'd like to, we've used potential twice there, guys.
What?
We've used potential twice.
I know it doesn't sound good, but I don't think it's wrong.
As soon as a potential tropical cyclone that could, I just think that I still would like to go back to that could, because we've got potential and could, there's uncertainty there, but I think that's okay.
Okay. This is my contract drafting.
Mhm.
that gets in the way of life.
No one's gonna get sued over this, so
Yeah.
I think we're okay.
Omar has his hand up.
Vice Mayor.
Chair, if I may, because I think that the vice chair may have to leave. That's what the sense I'm getting. I'm not sure. If she does, you guys will still have a quorum, so you guys can still continue the meeting if she has to leave. Just wanted to let you know that.
Okay. Maribel, if you have to leave, is there any additional commentary, any feedback you want to provide that we make sure we take into account before we do this?
No, I was looking at the initial printout and I didn't make any different, I didn't change anything.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
This looks good to me.
All right.
Okay. Before I go though, or somebody let me know when you all plan the next meeting.
Do you have, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So 3.2.1, the intro, we're okay? Moving on to the bullet items themselves.
What are these bullets under, Courtney?
Uh,
Thank you. Task force recommends. Okay. Can we just spell out South Florida Water Management District?
I'd be interested if you has any feedback on these bullets.
Okay, the thing about this is a lot of this stuff is sort of what have been trying to work out on the flood informal flood website that I've been talking about, or that I mentioned at the last meeting. So, you know, I've been incorporating that information. The problem is it's like when Kristen and Adam and I did the original report, the idea was that, you know, that as sort of a group, we would, as citizens, monitor this stuff. And I kind of volunteered to take it onto myself to have a website that would monitor this stuff, which I've done, you know, and the chief has said the next time we have some major situation, they will publicize the site, you know, but we can't, like, the village doesn't have the capability, or you guys don't have the capability of looking at all this data.
What I was pushing for here, and I, can you go up for a second, Courtney, because I'm not sure that, I think these are more guidelines, perhaps, but, you know, and we speak about that, in bullet 2, that the final goals are at the discretion of the council and the police chief. But that what I was trying to push for here is a citizen, you know, recommending a citizen science effort that isn't specifically you, Hugh, like that we can, that part of what you and Ab and I could do, and with a citizen science effort is to, you know, figure out a way that isn't under the umbrella of this committee, task force, or the council, but that we as a conservancy and a partner to the village figure out how to formalize what you're doing right now. But that but that what we're really saying here is that we do want notice for the residents, that we do want science and credible, agencies feeding into this, and that we do want the chief to be actively involved in setting the protocol, and that we want the village to make the final goals, as part of their, emergency management plan.
Could I say something?
Of course.
Should we move that up? The goal for assessment? Do you think that's the first bullet point here? And Q, as soon as I'm done and she answers, I'll
Yes,
shut
you're
up.
right.
I think that is the goal, and the other three are suggestions, potentially.
Can I say something?
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Biden.
Yeah, okay. The first place, I don't think the word protocol works because that sort of implies the village is responsible for developing this. I think sort of the only thing that we said, two things in the original report. One is, that we have this warning system, that it's based on science, and that have the goal for, for major and for minor flooding of having a 48-hour pretty clear warning of both, and then a 6-hour even clearer warning. So those time frame things were in there. But I think as far as creating something with the science, that's sort of, if you have some time at some point to study this sort of ongoing experimental site that I have, the idea is, it has like major flood warning, minor flood warning, sort of, and at the top current news, but everything in it is backed up with web links. There's a detailed instruction of how to use the South Florida water management data to get flood stuff. So it's the kind of thing that my hope would be that somebody outside of you guys and outside of the council might join me to maybe institutionalize it more.
Yeah, but I think, Hugh, that should be handled in the community aspect of the Conservancy.
Okay, no, that
Because
would be,
we don't want to have, I think it's outside of the scope of the village. I mean, it may be,
right.
I don't think we want the village management to be.
But that's what I'm trying to say, not clearly. What I'm trying to say is we're working on this. It'd be great if you guys gave some feedback on it, but it's outside the village. So I don't think the village should develop this. Maybe the village should utilize, or, the village.
Yeah, well,
The village should, that puts it on the village manager basically and the police chief to do it.
Well, I think that all we're asking the village for right now is that we want advance warning. Like, that's the goal of this. I think that's the core of this, and that.
So how about this piece, what we're saying here is that this is not a bullet point, right? You're saying this is like a full sentence.
Yeah, I think it's a recommendation. I don't think it's a suggestion. Whereas I think the other things underneath could be suggestions.
I mean, I think it's, the chief, I think it's very important that the village provide this, some kind of warning information.
Yeah, and I think so. I think
It's
the
just
last
like-
bullet should be incorporated in that first section, Courtney. So I think that last bullet is not a suggestion, it's a recommendation. Like, we're saying that the police chief should have primary responsibility for making sure that we get the warning that we need.
what do we call it? An approach. This approach. By the way, I did change this to be approach. Going to determine an approach for tracking and evaluating. I don't know if that's the right term, but if it is, we can use it again here. If not, I need a different term that you guys like, and I can use it quickly.
Hugh, is your objection to protocol that it's too formal for this particular aspect of it? Like,
No, it's just the sense the village should determine approach for tracking and evaluating relevant data. I guess that could include the Little River Conservancy working to do the website. I don't know. I just don't want to make it
yeah.
put on the village to actually technically have to do it. I
Well,
guess
I'm not suggesting the village, like the suggestions underneath are suggestions, but the
Yeah.
top part is what we're asking for, which is specifically that we want advance warning and we need the village to develop and I think it is a protocol potentially.
Yeah.
Like I want to consistently know that 48 hours
Okay.
before a storm, before a flood event, that we're gonna try to let residents know that that's coming. So that feels to me like a protocol in the sense that it should be formal.
Okay, you're right. And leveraging sources, it doesn't say that the village has to do it directly. So that's okay.
Well, and you could put the working with Little River Conservancy above. You could make it at the first bullet instead of the second. So then the leveraging sources falls under the Little River Conservancy suggestion. So that it implies that that happens under that citizen science effort. I'm sorry if I'm being too conversational in my suggestions, you guys. I'm not very good at working within committee structure. I'm sorry.
No, I think this is helpful. But I do think we need to reread 3.2.1 before we say it's okay.
Agreed.
Here, let me make it a little bigger, get this.
I think we might want to put is approaching South Florida. I think we need to maybe restructure that sentence. It's a little awkward.
Yeah.
Village should
Also, this assessment is only supposed to apply to major flooding, but we have the goal for assessment and communication should be a minimum of 24 hours notice for nuisance flooding.
So let's take out the 24 hours notice for nuisance flooding and just focus on the 48 hours of evacuation.
Why don't we, could you take out orders? I just think evacuation. Yes.
Yeah, I agree that this first sentence needs some help.
If you change could create a major flood event is approaching South Florida, comma, as defined by section 3.1, that might be a little bit clearer. So as soon as the potential tropical cyclone
Is approaching as
create,
defined is approaching Florida and could create a major flood event as defined by, right? As soon as a potential tropical cyclone as defined by the National Weather Service is approaching South Florida and could create a major flood event as defined by section 3.1.
I think we were also missing a that is approaching as well. That might be throwing us off a little.
Village. Instead of and, it should be that, right? That could create a major flood event.
All right.
There you go. Yeah, as soon as a potential tropical cyclone is. I think that's pretty good.
Yep.
Okay. Reads a little better.
I just put after event, put a comma.
I'm a comma guy. I like commas. Task force. Cool.
I'm very famous in my writing for M dashes. Did you take out any M dashes? Because I'm notorious for using a lot of M dashes.
I'm a fan of M dashes also.
So much more elegant than a semicolon. I hate semicolons.
I'm sorry, but what is an M dash? I'm sorry.
An M dash is a double dash that's used for, so you could in the sentence have used an M dash instead of a parentheses.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Unfamiliar with the term. That's for 48 hours for evacuation.
I like this. I think it's good.
Primary role. I'm good with 3, 2, 1.
Me too.
All right, moving on to 2. Whose dog's happy?
That's my dogs. I'm not sure they're happy. They're just ready for something to happen.
Yeah, and Lee took Loci out for a walk because we're running over. But anyway, I want to get this done.
All right, we're almost there. We're in the final stretch. Need a ampersand in line 1.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, where? Oh, crap-a-doodle. Yep.
Did we decide in bullet number 4,
Bullet number 4. Sorry,
I have moderate and major, which is a leftover from when I had 3 zones. So what is the,
I think we can take out moderate and leave major.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and it looks like I did something screwed up here. This maybe should be a bullet. I think that's a bullet.
This is kind of a this year only type of situation. I don't know if we need to indicate that for 2020, colon.
Well, actually, but I hate to say it and be a downer, but we don't know that it's going to be done by the next storm season comes in.
Okay.
So. Could say a COVID-19 storm season, but.
Yeah, so we're saying for the current storm season and then also during this COVID-19 storm season.
So 3.2.2 and 3.3 are related, aren't they?
Well, my understanding was the communication plan is the execution. The way I read your stuff was the
Yes, you're right. That's the internal plan as opposed to the PSA, which is the marketing,
right,
outward facing plan. Yes.
Okay.
Got it.
But address the immediate COVID applications for the current storm season, have a firm evacuation plan. Can we just delete this during this? Can I delete that?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
This would be your M dash, right?
Yeah, except that's not, I'm not sure that is an M dash. It might be an N dash. That's fine.
Please tell me that was humor and it's not something else I have to learn.
Well, there's an N dash, which is slightly smaller, but it's fine. English majors only. I don't know if we need to have parentheses around this. It might actually be a sub. We might want to break it out or make it a sub bullet or something. Ensuring residents and neighbors have a firm evacuation plan, period. And then the best scenario might be a sub bullet or something.
Just see if I actually created a second one or not.
Look at you work that template. It's awesome.
Nerd. What do you want from me? All right, I'll
I
create.
can do an M dash, but that formatting is beyond my capabilities.
It's like a word ninja.
Yeah.
I think that ensuring residents that needs to be actually part of the previous sentence, and that the bullet starts where there's the N dash.
I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm just going to create a new. With you. What do we want to say? Then this would be, and this would be, right? Right? Is this what you wanted?
Yes. Needs just a cap, I think, on the.
You're okay having just one bullet, one sub bullet?
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you to Kyle and Omar for sticking with us.
Yes, thank you both. We're almost there.
Yeah, I was going to say, are we good on 3.2.2?
Yes.
Madam
Need
Chair,
a ampersand in line 1 of 3.3.
You're getting ahead of the game. And apparently my search and replace must have been not capitalized. You want to say completion or update? Because I think we have to rephrase it to be what we said right here. Nope, I guess we didn't. Okay, my bad.
Nope.
Let me just look. Developer enhance. Okay. Service campaign. Nope, okay, sorry, my bad. We want to say completion or update, or what do you want to say? Or just leave it as completion?
Can we do a backslash update and make it 2 and 1?
That?
Mm-hmm. There in bullet 1, we need to get rid of moderate and. Same thing in bullet 2.
And are we capitalizing or not capitalizing?
I think we're capitalizing because it's a specific scenario, right, Elizabeth?
What are the plans?
Major.
So the only place that we mentioned it again, we said as defined in section 3.1, we didn't need to capitalize it.
Okay.
So, but we need to do that again if we're not capitalizing it.
Yeah.
I'm not, and this is probably check it out later.
Just did not capitalize it if we haven't in other places.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably not exactly perfect, but I think it's clear.
Omar, is this going to have to run by the lawyer? Like, would village council have to review this in any way?
So the lawyer is the one that puts together the resolution. So first it's going to go to village council, and we'll decide exactly, you know, if we want to keep it exactly that way, the way it is and stuff like that. And then we'll give direction to the lawyer to write up a resolution. A lot of times he can write up a resolution right there on the spot. As far as like if we're adopting all of it or part of it, and exactly where it's going to go in the overall emergency plan.
I like 3.3. Sorry, I think it points out what we want the public service campaign to do, and it gives it some boundaries to say, hey, we're talking about major flooding. We okay on 3.3?
Yeah, I'm wondering, we are using the term major flooding throughout. I wonder if where we initially defined it, we can just add something saying the term major flooding, like as used throughout the remainder of this document, so that it's just clear that every time we say major flooding, this is how it's defined. So let's say major flooding.
I mean, it's bolded and capitalized as a description.
Yeah, but the fact that we didn't capitalize it throughout. I mean, we could do parentheses with major flooding in quotes in lowercase wording.
Now we're getting into legalese as opposed to readese.
No, just right after major flooding, if we put.
You want me to do something like this?
Exactly.
Right, which, I'm sorry, I'm reading something major flooding, parentheses, major flooding. I understand if this were a contract, you might want to do that, but if that's your concern, I would prefer to address it, call it capital M, capital F, major flooding.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't want it to be inconsistent. We said as defined in section 3.1 once. And so I think we either just need to never say as defined in this section, or say it, capitalize it throughout, or say it throughout. So maybe we just take it out where we say earlier, they could create a major flood event. Yeah, that makes me feel better.
Okay. The other thing, I mean, I could go through and do this every time we use these two words together.
Yeah, either one of those is fine. That is the clearer method. If we went through and capitalized every time, that's the clearest. But I think that as long as it's consistent, it's not that big of a deal.
Nope, not that one. Nope.
Okay. All right. Yeah, there you go. I think that's great. I think that makes it really clear.
Okay. 3.4, the sandbags. Yay. On the last one.
Oh, we got to take out moderate flood scenarios.
How about we just do this? Can we, Kristen, you okay if I take out the in modest/moderate flood scenarios? So it's just.
Yes.
Can we just add could leverage federal, state, and private funding sources? Just add federal. Yeah.
Do we also want to put grants in here specifically, since we spoke to the grant writer today? Including grants?
I think that's
funding. We could,
I think funding sources includes that.
Okay.
And let's lowercase resilience initiatives. Looks good to me.
I'm good.
Okay.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, Vice Mayor.
Last part, you guys just might want to put in county, the word county also, just in case there's a funding source that comes through the county. Instead of federal, state, and private, there may be some kind of funding source that may come through, just in case.
I think the state includes county, but that's fine.
It does, but
It doesn't.
We can make it explicit. It's fine.
yeah.
Did you say, Hugh, did you say it doesn't?
It goes through a lot of the, there's a lot of funding that it's always better to put county.
Or we could just say could leverage governmental and private funding sources so that that covers everything.
If you put county, then you could put that, or you could say federal, state, county, either way, government, you know.
No, politically you have to say county. Simply because
They like to see their name.
well, it's also there's often a case where the state is blocking us from getting funding and the county is on our side.
The state, sometimes you guys, like, you know, just a little kind of like hilarious side note. Sometimes you guys, the state government looks at Florida like kind of like North Florida, South Florida. And a lot of times, even though down here, our tax base is the base that kind of like, you know, gives most of the money to the state of Florida. A lot of times down here, we don't get the funding equally like they do up north a lot of times. So the state a lot of times will block our funding down here, and we'll have to have the county fight for us and go through county funding sometimes. So.
Okay, so is everyone happy with this document?
Let me update, well, first I got
And Vice Mayor, just procedurally, if we want to, if it is the interest of the entire task force to postpone some items to another meeting, is that possible, and how is that done procedurally, or can you not?
Absolutely, that's possible. When we go through, I can go through the agenda items, and we can just say if we want to table it, or you can go through the agenda items, Madam Chair, and just say, do we want to table this until the next meeting? And we just do a yay or nay, that's all.
Gotcha, thank you.
Okay, so are we good on this? Is there any other changes we want to do?
I'm good.
I'm good too. Roll call?
You guys ready for a roll call? So this is the roll call for the Storm Safety Action Plan to be moved to the full Village Council for a possible resolution. And right now we're going to do the roll call. Member Kirk?
Yes.
Member McLean?
Yes.
Member Purcell is not here. Vice Chair Fruitstone is not here. Chair Carpenter?
Yes.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. This passes to the full council with a 3-0 vote. You do have quorum, so that is a pass, Madam Chair.
Great.
Now what time we say amen?
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for your work on that. I think this is awesome and really huge that we're getting this out so quickly. So thank you everybody, especially Kristen and Hugh and Courtney's work on that. This is great.
Yeah, this was all Kristen, to be honest.
Congratulations, the task force. Congratulations, you guys, for passing your first major item to the full council.
Yay.
Okay, so what do I do here, Omar? Do I send this to the chair? Do I send this to you? What happens?
You send it
Did
to
you
me.
save all changes, Courtney?
I accepted all changes and saved them.
Yeah, send it to myself and the village clerk, and we'll take it from there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so just generally speaking about the last issues, still on the agenda, we have the grant and funding opportunities discussion and the Wyland National Mayor's Challenge for Water Conservation discussion. What are everybody's thoughts on discussing those now as opposed to tabling them for the next meeting?
Madam Chair.
So,
Go ahead, sorry.
I'm sorry, you go first, Omar.
No, I was going to just say, Madam Chair, if I may, as far as the grant and funding opportunities, there was two that were mentioned earlier when we had the first part of the meeting. Mr. Ruano, the grant writer, along with the village manager, was on. Madam Chair, you also spoke about the one that you had on the agenda, and I just want to say that I hope that or it should be to where that our next meeting is in the next 2 weeks, hopefully, because I know the ending of your grant, what the deadline was, the end of September 25th, I believe. So in between now and our next meeting, I will be in contact with the grant writer so that he can get up on that. Madam Chair, you are also, I will also keep you updated with that, with the grant writing, because this is your item. In order to, this is something that you guys, we can vote on it right now. But if you guys are have no problem with that grant, you know, that was in the agenda package, the grant itself, Madam Chair, that you included, that wasn't the agenda package, in the agenda package. If everybody, the three members here, Madam Chair, you, Member McLean, and Member Kirk, if you guys did see that, and you guys have no problem with that, you guys can advise me to go ahead and, you know, introduce that to the grant writer for him to, for that to go to the full council in order to give the village manager the direction to have the grant writer work on that as a grant. That's up to you guys.
At this point, it seems like we would need to identify a specific project to apply for. And that.
Could I say something?
Yes, Mr. Brown, go ahead.
I'm sorry to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to just say 1 minute worth of something, because this grant would go into the local mitigation strategy. And unfortunately, the local mitigation strategy and how all these grant things work is a kind of complex thing. There's obviously no time to talk about now. I had wanted to, I sent Omar a link to the last section of our original report from the Conservancy about that. But the problem is, I really think the people in the task force have to understand how this process works, because by default, you're going to be called on to play a role, which is going to require some education. Mr. Vice Mayor Omar, is it possible for me to send a memo to the task force? You know, so I can send you a memo. You know, there's.
What we can also do, Madam Chair, if I may, sorry, Hugh, what we can also do is I can have, as he said when you were introducing that grant, Madam Chair, to the grant writer, he said that he hadn't had a chance to look at it yet. I can have him look at it in detail. I can have him come back for our next meeting at the beginning of the meeting, and he can say out of his opinion, you know, what we should do, if it's a grant that we should, you know, go for, what are the ramifications, what are the limitations. You know, if we give him time to look at it a couple of weeks before the next meeting, he can come back to us with his recommendations about it, if you guys want to do it that way.
The thing is, right now, El Patel has two proposals with the local mitigation strategy that are explained at the end of that report. Those are critical. Those are critical for the village. They total $4.5 million. And, you know, the village manager and I have for 3 or 4 years been like working incredibly hard to keep those in. So any new proposal like this should go in. We should update and add new proposals, but there are consequences. There are, you know, it's always a problem because the LMS process is something that the village is supposed to be present for, their quarterly meetings, you know, that the village has to participate in. If the village doesn't, you know, we can lose that $4.5 million, you know, and this has been a tremendous burden for the village manager, you know, and it's complicated for me because I have a position with the LMS that doesn't let me speak for the village. So what I'd like to do is send you a memo and ask you to please take an hour or so just to try to understand the process, because we're gonna, there are gonna be decisions made, And if there are major hurricanes in Florida in this season, that immediately generates funding that comes into the LMS that could come to El Portal if we do things right. You know, there's no way I can like explain that to you now, but what I'd like to do is just go to I can email you the report, go to the last paragraph, and I'll send you a memo discussing the whole thing.
So, yeah, I think a memo would be great, Hugh. The question that I have for my fellow members of the committee is whether or not we need to have a meeting sooner rather than later to just quick step this. Like, I'm worried about the time frame, right? And
well, the thing is, what's crucial really is not, there's no action called for. It's entirely appropriate for you to ask the village manager to add this proposal.
so we can move that.
So you can move that. It's more a question of education. You know, I mean, it's like, let's suppose Florida is hit by a massive hurricane anywhere. 15% of the costs, I mean, Irma was $1 billion in Miami-Dade. 15% of that was added on top, supposedly 150 million for the county. The state cut half, so we got 60 million. When that happened, the LMS had to make a decision very quickly about funding, you know, and there's a lot of bargaining and stuff that goes on. So when that happens, it would be incredibly useful for the task force to be knowledgeable about the process, you know, simply because, I mean, it's putting extra burden on you individually, or some of you who might be interested to find out about this process, because when these decisions may have to be made really fast, you know, it's on the manager and on the consultant to figure out what to do, but there are a lot of choices.
So let me ask you a question. Outside of what's already been submitted, do we have something that we specifically want to get granted? The only thing I can think of is a sandbag type program that we've actually discussed.
Right, that can't go in the LMS. You know, the LMS is for, you know, bricks and mortar, as they say. I mean, it's for things that hardening buildings and things like that. I'm just,
so from my perspective,
I would just like to ask you guys to take some time to understand the process, because it's absolutely critical in terms of the village being part of countywide resilience. It's where most of the funding comes through. You know, there's another, you know, I would also include the memo, the County Office of Resilience, that I've kind of kept posted on to keep in touch. We heard from them today. They actually have gotten a grant to work with a Little River Conservancy on some elements of the flood plan.
So,
I mean, it's all connected.
So you're just, so at this point, the El Portal has already moved ahead with a project and a grant proposal. You're just asking us to understand it and get involved to help support the efforts that the village is already making on this?
Yes.
Okay, that sounds
just
great.
as to be an investment of your time.
Gotcha.
And I will try to explain as best I can in my memo what's involved.
Madam,
Yes.
Madam, my suggestion would be to table this line item for the next one.
Yeah, for sure.
I agree.
All around.
And Mr. Gladwin, thank you so much. I very much look forward to reading your memo and learning about this project.
Okay, great.
So I think we should table this item. If you guys had an opportunity to look at the grant I sent out, it was really just an opportunity. If anyone had a particular project in mind.
Is that the Wylands? grant, or is it
No,
different?
that was proposed by the city attorney. No, I sent out a FDEP grant for $10,000 to $60,000 for resiliency efforts and things like that. So it's just if we had a project in mind, I wanted to bring it to the. I'm sorry.
So Elizabeth, I did not have time to review it, but given its deadline, you know, there are a couple things in the background. Is it similar to what we talked about with the grant writer today? Is it for structural long-term investment, or is it for shorter term projects?
It is very flexible, and it's more for, it covers the gamut. It's not that limited.
So given the deadline and the fact that, Omar, we probably would, if we can apply it against something that we've been talking about doing, if the deadline is in September, perhaps that's something that we might want to schedule a special meeting for, or schedule, I don't know what the process is exactly.
Yeah, the deadline is September 25th.
I'm looking at that CPI note that you sent out. It says financial awards are a minimum of 10 grand. Awards are limited to no more than 60 grand for construction projects, habitat restoration, invasive plant removal, or land acquisition, and no more than 30,000 for planning, design, and coordination activities. I don't know if that's the limit of what they want the money to go to.
So there's a screenshot attached to the email that Vice Mayor sent out to us with the different categories. And it can be anything from like educational signages in parks to larger projects like land acquisition. Obviously the funds are limiting, but it's a $10,000 to $60,000 grant. So why don't you guys go ahead and take a closer look at that and think about some ideas you've had, and we can put that on the agenda for next meeting.
Yeah, so my question is just, if we take it up if we come back to the next meeting with specific ideas, and actually I do have a couple specific ideas, we're gonna have to move relatively quick on it from that point to the deadline.
Yes.
So I say this now as somebody who has written grants before. I will commit to coming into that meeting with some very specific scaffolding for that, if it turns out that we can apply it to some of the things that we've been talking about with the Conservancy that touch on this. You know, trash reduction is something that we've been talking a lot about, which will, you know, impact our local.
Shoreline,
yeah,
that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So there's some very specific things. So I will.
To do a quick question, Omar. Omar, can you hear me? Oh, yeah. So would it be okay if you guys agree for Kristen to talk to Robert, the grant guy, about this specifically and work on something? I mean, as an individual citizen?
Not necessarily. Robert Ruano, he's not like we have to talk through the village manager, because Ruano, he's not necessarily available as a private
Right.
to the public. The public
Right.
just
The
like
village
that.
has to pay him, yeah.
Yeah, the village. So the manager or myself, we can contact him. So she can speak through me. I can get in contact with her.
Well, if Kristen comes up with could we say if Kristen comes up with a proposal that she could send it to you and the village manager?
Yeah, that's perfect. And I can get it
Okay.
right now. Because I'm going to be, I brought him on today and asked him to join us because I want him to be familiar with, hey, look, this is my family right here, right? And I'm going to be contacting him about these type of situations. That's why I wanted to bring him on and meet you guys today. So he's expecting it, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, so Kristen, if you could take a look at the website has a lot of that information, and they did a webinar. And if you after having had a chance to review that, think that there's a good opportunity, maybe you can communicate that to Vice Mayor Nickerson and he can pass that on. And then by the time we come full circle back to our next meeting, we'll have heard from the grant writer whether that's reasonable, and we can address it at the next.
Exactly. Love that idea. Love it.
Perfect. Okay. So that being said, I think that we can go ahead and say we accomplished our grant and funding opportunities discussion, but it will be moved onto the next agenda item as well, as another agenda item for next meeting as well. I would move to table the Wayland National Mayor's Challenge for Water Conservation until the next meeting.
Yeah, the only thing about the Wayland National Mayor's Challenge for Water Conservation, I don't know if you guys had a chance to look at it or not.
I did.
If you guys have no problem with it, the attorney has already drafted a resolution to take to the full council so that the full council can pass it through. There's no financial, burden on the village for joining that program or anything like that. It's up to you guys. We can table it. We can table it. There's no rush, but there is a resolution. I don't know if you guys had a chance to look at the resolution. It's pretty straightforward and simple that the attorney put together to take
I did have a chance to look at the resolution. I had a couple of thoughts on it. I mean, we can hit it right now if everyone else has also had a chance to look at it.
I glanced at it. I don't see, this is the one, it's water conservation, and it's kind of like advertising it and trying to get your citizens to use less. I don't understand how it's measured.
I agree. That's the exact point why I was going to suggest tabling it, because I don't really understand what this resolution, I looked at the website, I went through the whole thing, and I think the resolution's pretty unclear and a little bit kind of like toothless, like what comes of this. So I think it's a little bit of a more in-depth conversation.
Yeah, I agree.
Is there a deadline?
I'll try to have the attorney come on for the next meeting so he can explain.
Is there any kind of deadline?
There is a deadline, but I believe we still have time.
Okay, great. Okay, so we'll go ahead and move that to the next meeting's agenda item as well.
I concur. If there needs to be a vote, I'm seconding that idea.
Perfect. Okay, does there need to be a vote, Vice Mayor Nickerson?
For those things, we can just say all in favor, aye, or all opposed, nay.
Okay. All in favor of moving the Wyland National Mayor's Challenge for Water Conservation agenda item to next meeting's agenda, say aye.
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 All of those against say nay. All right. The Wyland National Mayor's Challenge for Water Conservation is moved to next meeting's agenda. And that being said, we're now on to scheduling our next Resiliency and Sustainability Task Force Board meeting. So we had discussed every 3 weeks, I believe. Am I accurate in that statement?
Yep.
Okay, so that would put us at September 16th at 3:30 p.m., which is a Wednesday.
We have to do any of the grant stuff by September 25th.
Mm-hmm. That's
Having not done it like this, is that reasonable or is that not a possibility?
I would say as a private, I submit grant applications for my private job as well, and that's reasonable for a private person, but I can't imagine we'd be able to run it through the village council in that amount of time. Would you agree with that, Vice Mayor Nickerson?
Yeah, I would need more time.
Okay.
For that.
So is the grant writing something that has to go through the council, or does it just go from the village manager to the grant writer?
Yeah, so the grant writing is not something that necessarily has to be voted on by the village council, but the village council has to be notified of it. And they have to just kind of be like no disagreements about it, and then we give the village manager direction to go ahead with the grant. So I can probably do that, you guys. We have special council meetings and things coming up because we have a situation with the clerk and things like that that has arrived. We also have, this is a busy month coming up. We have the first budget hearing, we have the final budget hearing, and we have committee meetings. So I can drop that into any of those meetings and just get a yay or nay, or just get a informational yay vote. That's all.
So do we want to do this the 9th or do we want to do it the 16th?
I think it makes more sense to do it the 9th.
Kristen, are you all right with that?
Yep.
Okay, great. Okay. So our next village council meeting will be our next sustainability and resiliency meeting will be September 9th at 3:30 p.m.
And if we're going to have additional people join us as scheduled, can we know what they're going to talk about and have them be a little bit more prepared for us? So we can have stuff to review ahead of time, if that's possible.
Yeah, I'll try to do that if that's possible with, like, for example, Robert Wano, he wasn't able to join us. It was the last moment cancellation that he had. That was the same with Juan last meeting.
Right, they were relatively quick. They were like 2 or 3 minutes. It's the 25 minutes that we got delayed that kind of is frustrating when we're at the end of a 3-hour schedule.
No, I understand what you're saying. The only thing about it is that I think that if we kind of look at it, the items about funding and things like that, we kind of got those out of the way early, more or less. So if for example, if they would have came on when we got to the grant and funding item, it would have been the same amount of time. They just would have been on saying that same thing at that time. But definitely, I'll definitely, if I know ahead of time, you guys will get everything ahead of time. Absolutely.
Thank you.
I got you.
Just to keep us moving, do we have any unfinished business or general orders? No? Any new business? Okay, and good and welfare, do we have any members of, any residents or participants that would like to speak? Mr. Gladwin?
No, I said not me.
Ah, okay. Okay,
Good job, guys.
great, thank you. So does anyone, do any of the task force members have anything else to add before we adjourn the meeting?
I move we adjourn. Please.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, the El Portal Sustainability and Resiliency Task Force meeting is officially adjourned at 6:28 p.m.
Thank you, guys. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
No names, you guys take care. Appreciate it. Good work, you guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Member McLean. Thank you, Member Kirk. Appreciate you guys. Take care.
Thank you so much, guys. Have a great night.
Bye.